Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I am very excited to share that we are back with the Unleashing DePIN pod. This week, we are joined by not one, but two very special guests from the Silencio project. We are joined by Theo and Thomas. Theo and Thomas, welcome. I'm super excited to have you guys here.
Thank you for having us over. We look forward to our chat.
Absolutely. We got a chance to chat a little bit offline, and it was super fun kind of learning about everything you guys are building, and I'm excited to keep the conversation going live for everybody here. So before we dive into that, can you give a background about who you are, how you got in the space, talk a little bit about yourselves, and then we can kick it off from there?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tim.
would love to. So maybe just a little disclaimer up front. Thomas and I, we're brothers. So for any
You're brothers.
what? Yeah.
I love that. I didn't know that.
So,
You know, it's funny. I don't want to cut you off real quick. I actually also work with a relative, and I get the question all the time: are you guys brothers? We're not, but that's awesome. So you guys are brothers working together. Family businesses for the win. I love it.
We actually are three brothers working on this business, but we're four brothers in total. So imagine everybody, we're four entrepreneurial brothers.
That's amazing. I'm sure holiday times are a lot of fun when you come home and mom and dad are getting the full breadth of DePIN related projects these days. I'm sure that's how it goes, right?
yeah. Actually, we can dig into that a little later. But one of our brothers has a software development company, and so quite strategic to have him on the team as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off, Theo. Please continue.
No, definitely. So yeah, Thomas and I, we've been working together, for the last 10 years. Previously, we've been doing like 7 years of that. We were in the law industry, so something very different. However, I'm more on the technology and operations side. Thomas can introduce himself in a moment, but we've been doing that, and kind of like our first contact with crypto was in 2016, 17. Besides like investing passively, we always were wondering, what could we actively do here, hands-on? And I guess it took us a couple of years to figure that out. And by 2019 or 20, we had our first moment with Helium, where we kind of came across what is called nowadays DePIN space, and so pretty excited to have seen all that trajectory and how we got here.
Yeah, so
That's
maybe
awesome.
to add on that, just to our previous life before the Web3 world, which definitely we're having much more nicer and more interesting talks today. So you can definitely trust upon that. So Theo and I were actually working 7 years in the intellectual property industry, and we were consolidating portfolios of Fortune 500 companies in emerging market economies. So we were already back then thinking, hey, they're like over a 5 billion transactional costs done on a yearly basis, just between law firms internationally, only within our industry back then. And we were thinking already back then, 2016, to ourselves, how can we actually bring this on chain in order to avoid the middleman. So when we started talking to the first law firms, we noticed, okay, first of all, the industry itself is usually tends to be one of the last ones in terms of, if you look at a Gauss curve, and you would say in terms of technological adaptation, they tend to be the laggards. But on the other hand, we said to ourselves, hey, we were so amazed by blockchain technology that as soon as we came across a first chance to get actually more involved, and that was, as Theo was describing, the Helium moment, that was our aha moment, because all of a sudden we understood that what Helium was actually doing and that what they were demonstrating was a much bigger narrative than the one that they were addressing, which is what we call DePIN now. But they actually demonstrated that they could, all of a sudden solve the chicken and the egg problem with classical Web2 networks and really hyperscale this to the masses in order to democratize the generation of value and the distribution of the value. So that was for us like the moment where we said we actually need to get involved in this, and we started becoming one of the largest Helium deployers in Germany. And through this, we actually jumped in full time and became also one of the largest deployers for other DePIN projects all throughout Europe. And we had more or less 2 years of full-time deployment as a service. So we were enabling people all throughout Europe to jump on board on these projects. And we were sharing, so to say, the mining profits 50-50. And we were, bringing investors on board to organize the infrastructure and taking care of all the logistical and installation. And through that, we had our exposure to geolocation data. And we really fell in love with that because we felt it was like mining 2.0. All of a sudden, you could really be, creating value for society while at the same time, creating long-term sustainable value through this DePIN flywheel effect. And that's essentially how we came to the idea of Silencio, because we felt that those projects that demonstrated us what really worked, but didn't work. But there were two things that stood out to us. One of them was that DePIN at its core, we felt really has to be addressable and freely addressable for the masses. And at the same time, we felt that we really like the idea of tapping into idle infrastructure. So naturally, phones or smartphone approach was our way to go when we initiated Silencio.
Yeah, that's a really interesting background into how you got here. I think, by the way, I'm going to cap that sentence you said about what DePIN is and helium. Your explanation is probably the best explanation I've heard about why DePIN kind of works. I thought that was amazing. I'm super interested and curious about how you went from blockchain and IP interest in the legal field to what was the helium aha moment before you started deploying? Like, how did you hear about helium? What about it clicked with you? I'm always fascinated how people who are not, into radios find out about this LoRaWAN IoT network thing, and then they jump in and become a big time business with that network. So what was the moment for you with joining Helium?
Yeah, I would say rather than it being a direct combination of our IoT knowledge before we jumped on the Helium train, I think it was rather the mechanisms in place of DePIN that open up our minds. And all of a sudden, when we first came across Helium, which was back in 2019, we were already brainstorming how you could actually use all of this mechanism to solve many other, Web 2 networks that have been failing and scaling in order to achieve those networks effects due to the incentive problem. And on the other hand, the validity of the actual work taking place. So back then for us, it was just a matter of time that this really starts exploding, like, mushrooms everywhere of companies popping up. So maybe it actually took a bit longer than we would have expected, but we still think we're at the complete beginning of this curve. But it's very amazing to see as the DePIN narrative progresses, all the different use cases that you're starting to see, and many of which you could have never imagined. And we're taking this so far that we even think that governments could be even interested in using DePIN models to incentivize good behavior.
To add, instead, obviously, what's the intrinsic motivation here? And for many, I would say, when they started, going down the rabbit hole of like the Web3 worlds and just in general Bitcoin, and then going into that rabbit hole, I would say, there's that anarchistic type of thought, liberating the people, the kind of like cutting off the middleman and power to the people. And then when you start seeing these networks and how, in the Web2 world, the user is really also the product to a certain extent, but doesn't get rewarded for any of the value that they generate. It seems so outdated once you start going into this DePIN narrative and what you can achieve. And, if you're participating in a network and deploying also value, that flows back to the user. And I think that's an idea that's just beautiful in DePIN. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges yet. We've proven it on a supply side level and other DePINs have as well. And there's that big challenge on the demand side, which, we can go into a little later as well on the advancements we're making that.
There was actually on that, Theo, a great quote that we read on the latest Web3 actual release book from Alex Tapscott, and that was actually comparing the transition right now. If you think about it, in the Web2 world, you have bigger tech players that are essentially not paying at all for the product that they're getting from you.
Right.
And the example that they took, it was like General Motors not paying for the steel and glass and rubber that they need to manufacture a car. So imagine like the crazy margins that they will be making. It's essentially what is happening right now in the Web 2 world, right? We coming from kind of like this feudalistic system where all of a sudden this mindset really needs to start changing in terms of how value is accrued and really shared with the people that are accruing.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy. I've yet to hear the General Motors example, but it's true, right? In the Web 2 space, you are the product. And if you're not paying for it, that is very much the case. And we now have an answer to part of how we solve that with this DePIN approach. I want to unpack some of what you talked about in terms of, managing both the supply and demand side. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But at a high level, can we start with what is Silencio? What are you guys building? And I'm also really interested in, it's a very unique problem that you're solving that I don't think many folks would probably think about being a problem. And so how did you even come up with the idea of doing what you're doing? And we can go from there.
Sure. So when we actually started building out decentralized air quality networks in Europe, we started understanding the actual impact that negative impact that this had on our health and even on world GDP. I mean, air quality is estimated to have an impact of over 8 trillion a year to world GDP, and noise comes second in place as the second most harmful pollutant within the urban landscape, and is responsible to over 5 trillion in terms of GDP costs on a yearly basis. So
wow,
we really started digging deep in terms of understanding this problem, because when we were looking to create a project of our own, as I was mentioning before, it was important for us that it could be something that we could address via the smartphone. And given that we had already fallen in love with crowdsourcing geodata, this felt like the closest thing we could get to. And at the same time, we also have a personal relationship with noise. We grew up with a dad that is almost deaf. So we were already always exposed to, making sure where we go or what restaurant you go, where he sits, so you can have a normal conversation. And these are things that maybe we thought more people would be aware of. But once you start understanding that, how it affects your physical, and mental well-being, and that your bodies are constantly in that fight or flight response mechanism, specifically if you're living in like big cities. Let's say you're living next to a busy road or an airport or a train station. You might not feel it in terms of being completely aware of it, but your body is. And that's going to reflect itself in terms of reduction in life expectancy. It's going to reflect itself in terms of overall reduction of your quality of life. And today, there was basically no way to be able to measure noise pollution on a hyperlocal level. Like, we were looking at the solutions that they were all usually static, they were computed, and at the same time, they were lacking any type of historical data. So this is when this idea of Silencio actually emerged. And we thought to ourselves, hey, what if we would be targeting a problem that even the WHO, states that 1 in 4 individuals are going to be suffering from hearing loss in the next 25 years as the cities grow. It's really a growing problem. How can we target this problem in order to be able to combat it? And let's say the answer to that is you need to understand it first. And for that is why we created Silencio, which essentially is an application that rewards mobile users across the globe for delivering their surrounding noise level readings. So we do this with a very gamified and user-friendly approach. Everybody's able to download the application just in a matter of seconds. We have it on iOS, on Android. You can simply go to the stores and look for Silencio Network. You're going to find it right away. And from that moment on, you're actually already part of the network. You're already adding value. And I think through this approach that we took, we were very happy to see that organically we were able to actually bootstrap the growth of this project through the DePIN communities that we were already in close contact with. And it led us to be creating now data in more than 175 countries just in a couple of months. And then that for us was just, wow. I mean, that's the power of DePIN right there.
Yeah, it's amazing. On the app experience, I got to download it the other day, and I've been mapping and being a part of that collection process since then. I actually, and you told me I get to plug this. I have my invite code. There's an invite code process that people plug in. So I'm gonna share that here so I can be a part of it, because I love getting to be a part of that as well. But the app experience is so seamless, and I think that's one of the really unique aspects of what you're building, because you can give users exposure to this DePIN thing through something that is interesting to them, but they don't need additional hardware. So the barrier to entry is so low. I think that's a really beneficial. How much did that inform your business strategy, kind of go-to-market plan with building Silencio? Was it very intentional that you wanted it to be solely app-based so everybody has access to it as part of your decision process?
Thomas, if you want, I can go first. And if there's something you thought I forgot, please do that after. So there's a couple of questions I hear in that. So I would say the first one is kind of like making sure that the experience kind of feels like Web 2, right? And through that, attract really the masses. There's 7 billion smartphones out there, all capable to measure decibel levels, so to a degree or other. So there's obviously differentiating hardware where the quality is also a factor. But all of them could be, potentially downloading Silencio and adding value to the network. So with that said, we wanted to create something that was frictionless, that was gamified, and we're only at the very beginning. So that what you see today is an MVP. We do have a massive upgrade coming now in the next days, where we are implementing a lot of these gamification features that, were directly also asked by the community. So I think that's also an annex I would like to add here. The greatness of Web3 is having, your users, your community out there who are actively giving you advice on and feedback on Discord on features they would love to see. So that iteration and constant feedback loop, you can do enormously well in Web3. And given that we're completely software-based, it allows us to, deploy fast. And then kind of on the second aspect of your question, we wanted to intentionally do something without having users to, buy additional hardware. First of all, it's really difficult to give a clear indication on the ROI of a hardware. That's the first question. So tapping into idle infrastructure makes sense at the beginning. Given also the I would say current market situations that we have, they're looking more optimistic, etc. But you gotta build something that is bear market resistant, essentially. We always like to say it's like Helium and Pokemon Go having a baby. What we're trying to build.
Yeah. That's a phenomenal tagline, by the way. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation, Theo. And just to add on that, we're all about really making sure we can tap into idle hardware and infrastructure. So through that, we can also reduce the project CO2 footprint. So imagine if we want to do this worldwide, like the millions of devices we would need in order to create a significant data sample in each city. So that on one side. On the other side, we can actually not have to limit ourselves to smartphones, right? We could take this data collection capabilities further to smart wearable devices, such as smartwatches, earplugs, so noise cancelling headphones, even a browser-based approach. Your computer could be delivering this data anonymously. So it's super exciting where we can take this further, and being able to have the data collection capabilities, let's say, so easily mobilized means that we can really focus the value generation where it's needed most. So compared to other DePINs where, for example, you would say, I have my static devices, but if a data buyer actually is interested in a certain area of a city, then it would be, let's say, quite some time until we could get the community to buy the devices and install it where it's needed. But if we create a data bounty and we say, hey, for the next 24 hours, this part of Manhattan is going to pay you X5 rewards for this, time of the day, we can easily mobilize the thousands of people we have in that city to go towards where the value is needed most. And through that, get to much larger actual data samples. And, with also a lot of big numbers, be able to reduce the margin of error, but to really focus the full value generation where it's needed.
Yeah. That makes the DePIN part of this so compelling. When I was talking to Gabe at Hive Mapper, I used the word skew the incentive. He says, no, we're not skewing the incentives. We're using the built-in mechanisms so that when you need more supply, you can match that with demand, and everything sort of reaches equilibrium. And that stuck in my head, and it's so true. When you need to have additional data, the network can be the driver of where the rewards need to be, which is amazing. You said one thing though that I wanted to ask a little bit about, which is you said if this was built into a browser, everything is sort of anonymous. As you're using microphones and data that would be, you're picking up sound decibels, I'm sure people are going to ask the question, how does privacy factor into this? We talked about this offline. Can you share how the privacy components come into this for people who may be concerned that their microphone is always listening?
Sure. I mean, first of all, to clarify, I mean, privacy is of utmost importance for this project. If we wouldn't be having, the highest degree of privacy in place, we could forget about what we're doing here. So, first of all, it's very important to mention that we do not record or tap into any type of audio content whatsoever. So we are essentially just measuring a dBA level, which is just a number. And you can, without us opening the code right now, because it is a USB for us, having, one of the best dBA meters in the iOS store, we will open it up essentially as we gain our first mover advantage. But you can easily check it yourself. You can go on the app loads that our app is delivering to the network, and you're going to see that the size is so minuscule that it could never include any type of audio content for any type of measurement that you do. So that on one side. And on the other side, we are going to be making it as anonymous as possible in terms of how you appear towards the community. So we're even going a step further. Right now, community will only see your username that you can freely choose. But in the next months, we're actually going to be making it so that each user is going to have a mix of 3 words, like we have it with Helium. Mm-hmm. So to make it even more anonymous. And we're using avatars within our app. And it's going to be actually quite interesting to see how users also see the next update that we're bringing out next week, which is already going to entail a lot of this.
Amazing. Yeah, it's just one of those things I know, especially in the Web3 space, that people care a lot about, and it's part of your product. And I wanted to make sure that people knew that was an important factor to how you're architecting and building that. So what are use cases that are unlocked by this data that you're collecting with Silencio? Can you talk me through, how existing Web 2 applications or new Web 3 based applications will start leveraging this data and really realize the value of what you're collecting on the supply side?
Definitely. I think what is always quite helpful is an analogy. So imagine next time you're, looking for a restaurant, an open table. You want to find a quiet place or a venue that, you can take a phone call if you're on the road kind of thing. Or you want to find a hotel with a noise score. And so actually in hotels, the number one complaint is noise. And when you're moving, where you're looking for a new property and you want to see what is the noise relationship here during the evening, perhaps when you didn't visit the location, what does noise look like during the week? Or on a weekend, does it change according to different times or days of the week? So those are some initial use cases that we're looking at, especially in real estate. That's a factor that is already using this data today on a computed static level. And we're coming in with a product that is really 100 times better here. Obviously, we're still in early days, but it's pretty promising what we're building and the feedback we're getting from potential data buyers.
Yeah. So if I was a Zillow, for example, and there was a high rise, and I know this firsthand, when I first moved to a high rise in a bigger city, I started kind of on the middle floor. The noise level was quite loud and it wasn't an enjoyable experience. So I moved up a little bit and that seems to dissipate. With your hyper targeted collection, your data could be so accurate that you could say on the 13th floor, you're going to see sort of this level on a Monday at 5 o'clock, this level on a Sunday at 3 a.m. And same thing on the 30th floor, you're going to see that. And you're able to actually collect and share that so that it could be built into like a Zillow application, for example. Is that right?
Yeah. So within the data collection capabilities, we are nourishing, so to say, different data sets. So on one side, we have the open measurements that are taking place as you walk through the street, which is also important to mention that as we want to make this experience as frictionless as possible, in the next 3 months, we're actually going to be bringing out an update that is going to include a passive measurement mechanism. What this means is that for the, let's say, very enthusiastic and very dedicated community, we're going to have a extremely gamified approach, which is a mix of what we like to call Helium and Pokemon Go. But we also know that a lot of people are super eager to contribute to this network, but maybe they just want to forget about the app and leave it running in the background anonymously and sporadically, and be able to come back every couple of days or weeks and see how their earnings are. So really acting like a, let's say, passive miner in the DePIN, let's say, first kind of like projects that people got exposed to. And this will enable us also to really ramp up our data collection capabilities by quite a higher degree. And it will also enable us to create even further data sets, which is extremely interesting. And we can go a bit into detail in a bit. But this means that we're going to be collecting street level data and also check-in data. Check-in data is you living like a Google review. When you enter a venue, you can create a 15-second snapshot of what your actually sound levels are in that venue. And then you check in, and that gives you rewards within the app. And those check-in use cases are going to be, nourishing the use cases for API-driven data sales, for hotel booking platforms, and restaurant booking platforms. So for hotel booking platforms, as Theo is saying, noise is the number one complaint worldwide. If you go on booking alone, there are over 1 million noise complaints. And
wow.
Today, there is actually no way of knowing what the actual sound score of an hotel is before you go there. So we envision a future where geolocation is going to be affecting our day-to-day decisions in terms of our quality of life, anywhere from where you live to where you spend your free holiday time or where you even eat, based on the different use cases that this data is also enabling.
I'd love to talk a little bit further about some of the data sets specifically that you're collecting. One of the anecdotes that I'd shared offline was I was using Google Maps to find a restaurant. This is probably a year or so ago, and I noticed that they had added this vibe section, and so it was sort of what you would expect in terms of lighting and the ambiance and all of these other factors, but there was nothing to do with sound. And arguably, if you're going to go have a business meeting, if you're going to go to a cafe and work, that is likely the most important decision factor if you're trying to have a intimate conversation with somebody, or if you want to go to a cafe to have phone calls and exactly as you said. And without having that real-time check-in, there's no way for you to audit that and check that out as a user before you even show up until you realize that it's a little too late. And if you've already made your reservation and paid for it, you're sort of screwed. So I think there's so many novel use cases to how that real-time data is going to just make user experiences better. And it's a value add for the businesses, because they can say, hey, look, if this is what you're looking for, you can verify that other people have already, kind of checked that is in fact the case. But you talked through some of those data sets, and can you unpack that a little bit further for what you're collecting and kind of how that builds into your eventually what you'll sell to businesses via your API?
Sure. So in terms of noise level data and everything related to noise, our initial data sets are going to be on one side street level data accessible via API, mostly targeted for real estate platforms, which we're already running multiple pilot projects. So for them, it's super interesting because there is a strong potential that geo data is going to start influencing square meter pricing of real estate worldwide in the near future. Given that it's such a big component of how you live on a day-to-day, how you work on a day-to-day. There are even studies showing a link, almost a 10% reduction in work efficiency, depending on the ambient soundscape in which you're working. So imagine bringing this also to, let's say, to the awareness of Fortune 500 companies. We're talking billions in the damage. And on the other hand, we are going to be creating the data sets, as I was saying before, the check-in functionalities, which are also going to be accessible via API calls. These are going to be priced similar to Google's air quality API. Google did a major move in terms of purchasing Breezometer last year, which is one of the biggest air quality aggregators worldwide. And we're going to be also creating data sets for noise complaints worldwide. There are over 100 million noise complaints a year, and they usually are just lost. You cannot really do anything with that. There is no central authority for collecting this data and to be able to improve the well-being of citizens upon this data. So imagine if you have like 10,000 noise complaints around an airport, you could actually use that data in order to influence the lives of the people living there to the better. And there's even a study showing that just a night flight in Brussels alone causes a damage of over 30,000 euros, just one flight.
Wow.
This is people waking up and not being able to perform at work tomorrow because they couldn't fall back to sleep, or being under chronic stress because of being constantly exposed to flights. There are tons of different reasons why this happens, and it acts like, one drop on top of the other, and it ends up being, a lagoon impacting, so to say, the economic output of an economy.
Yeah. One of the things that was really enlightening to me was I never thought of noise as being a problem. And what became more and more apparent through research and having different conversations with you guys is that it does genuinely become death by a thousand cuts. And what is something that is so seemingly innocuous ends up becoming quite profound in terms of data you shared around life expectancy, or just your ability to work and be focused and whatnot, and your fight or flight response and these kinds of things. And so it's really fascinating that these problems that don't inherently seem like problems are in fact solvable by this novel, DePIN approach, plus all the other interesting things that you're doing. And so I wanted to follow up with that by saying, how does the DePIN narrative, and you talked about this a little bit, but how is the DePIN narrative really enabling what you're doing, and why wasn't this type of collection really possible before this new kind of innovative model here?
It's a good question, Tiger, and happy to answer that. So I would say it was possible prior to this, and that proves it by a company that we like to see as a competitor / partner, to be honest. So it's a company called Soundprint, and they are collecting data on gastronomies. That happens on a completely voluntary basis. It's a very niche product, yet they have like 250,000 users out there leaving reviews on noise, etc. We took that a little bit also as a confirmation of what we're doing. And surprisingly, that is a lot that aims at, I would say, older generation. So perhaps, our parents here who are looking for venues that are particularly quiet. So they're much more noise sensitive, and that's normal because as you get older, the more noise sensitive you get. So that proved to us that there is certainly companies out there trying to do something about it. Yet what happens here is that there's no real incentive to take this into the millions of users and make the readings really as precise as possible and reduce margin of errors. Because what happens is if a user goes into a restaurant and leaves one single review, it's like leaving a review for that Starbucks coffee you didn't like. If it only has one bad review, you can't trust it. But if you have, let's say, 500 or 1,000 reviews, it gives you a more accurate picture of what the reality is in that place. And so we believe that the DePIN narratives, you replace that huge, so to say, in driver, in incentive, in people joining the network, delivering value, and getting also rewarded for that.
Yeah. And I think right on that, you could actually, one great example that I like to use, there's another company, which is a non-profit organization that is called Sound Planet. And they have actually been trying to map out noise pollution with smartphones since 2008. And this is an initiative that was done mainly by scientists worldwide. And it's super exciting because we are not reinventing the wheel in that sense. We're injecting the DePIN equation to it. And if you see what these guys were able to do, which is really, we love their product and we love what they did. But if in terms of data collection capabilities, these guys were able to get about 80,000 scientists worldwide to join this cause and to create data over the last 15 years. So when we started Silencio, actually since last May, saying when the product started getting some traction, we were able just in about 6 to 7 months to collect more data than they were able to do in 15 years. And that's again the power of DePIN. This is why this DePIN narrative, it gets you 20 times faster to the goal. And the same was for Helium. If you would have taken a bigger, tech player to try to replicate what Helium was doing, it would have taken them, if it would have been possible, definitely, I would say 10 times longer, and without even talking about any type of regulatory constraints.
The proof positive is in the data, and it's quite clear that DePIN narrative is both accelerating and just enabling this to happen so much faster. But what does the long-term vision for Silencio look like? How are you taking the current product, the DePIN narrative, the different applications of what's possible with this data, and how does that look in a year, in 5 years, 10 years, so on and so forth? Can you talk to me about the long-term goal that you're trying to build here?
Sure. So we have quite a fascinating long-term goal, and really we think that it's going to be super interesting to see where the whole DePIN narrative evolves to. For us as Silencio, we envision a future in which Silencio will essentially become the go-to hub to commercialize smartphone-generated data. So we don't want to stop at noise-level data itself, because through collecting noise-level data, we're also tapping into further very exciting data sets. Let's say once we start actually collecting passive measurements, we're going to be collecting anonymously also geolocation data, which in turn also is a very interesting market to look into. It's a very established market with over a 16 billion plus in revenue, growing at over 15% a year, and where there are over 100 established data buyers. And some of these we've been already having a lot of chats with. Some of these will actually want to partner with us actively, because they already are telling us that they would have loved to see a product like this already back in the days, and that they see that data collection capabilities for us are enormous. If you think about the fact that the most important thing is really to build your healthy community of like-minded people that see this vision. And once you're in the millions of users, it's very exciting to see where you can actually further move in terms of further data collection capabilities. So we really envision a future in which our users are going to enter the platform and they're going to select which type of data they want to share, which type of data they want to commercialize, or just interact with the data if they don't want to share anything at all, because there's value in that. There are over 800 million noise-sensitive people in the world that would love to get access to our data. So we really want to, through that, also make the world not a more fairer place, but at the same time, also a better place. And I think this is where not only DePIN, but Web3 comes into play.
Now, I just wanted to add on to what Thomas mentioned there. I think this is also a goal of ours, is to, become a catalyst for Web2 and Web3. So bringing people into the Web3 world with a Web2 product, so to say. So as Thomas says, they're free to choose what they do. And if they, want to go that rabbit hole of having their tokens and then one day being able to exchange those tokens or do whatever they want with them, that's up to the user to decide. But I think that the beauty here is that there's nothing wrong in commercializing smartphone data as long as that value flows back to the user. And if we manage to prove that, we hope that fuels again the kind of like the supply side and the network effects in the whole project.
And there's actually one interesting point to add there. So what is a big challenge for data buyers today? If it's data coming from smartphones, how can they actually know that this data was actually given to this data aggregator with a full permission from that user? So it's very hard for them, right? It's a Wild West out there in terms of knowing where this data came from. And this is where blockchain also can enable us to create transactions on the chain for every time you, as a user, allowed Silencio or any other type of mobile-based platform to give access, get access to your data for the time frame that you desired and commercialize it for that time frame. I mean, this is unmutable in that sense. So I think there's also in terms of data collection in the future and privacy and being aware of what you're sharing and what you want to share and what you don't want to share, it's really going to change the landscape.
Yeah. I'm so fascinated by it. Can you give me like a 30,000 foot view of what are some of these other types of data collection sets that you're thinking about that are valuable to these data collection buyers that are interested and that you can tap with the smartphone and your app? Can you just give a few examples so we can be thinking about what that future might look like?
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that for us, we always want to keep our flagship product, which is noise level data, and through that, expand into the actual horizontals that we start seeing. And geolocation is a very positive externality of what we're seeing. So this is going to be the next market that we're going to be tapping into. And it's a very established market, as I was saying. So there are already established pricing, which makes the ROI expectations much easier as well. At the same time, I was mentioning before, we're going to be, improving our data collection capabilities or enabling also check-in functionalities, noise complaints, but also in-app hearing tests. This was something I didn't mention before, but there's a market for it as well. There's even a company very interested. They're based in Berlin. They're called Mimi, and they have over 1 million users, in-app users, just to do noise hearing tests. So
really.
Yeah, and this is super valuable data because through this, you can actually create tailored products for the end user in terms that are completely tailored to your hearing capabilities. So imagine if I would be selling you, noise canceling headphones that are tailored to you to reduce the amount of damage I'm doing to your ears the most possible, and at the same time give you the best experience. Imagine the same with TVs. Imagine the same with hearing devices. So there's definitely another interesting market to explore down the line. So in that sense, we really want to be making sure we take one step at a time and having that long-term vision in place. And there are definitely more data sets that we could be talking about today, but I think it wouldn't be prudent for us to share yet, as we have not done our full due diligence.
Understand. Theo, I wanted to go back to something you talked about, which is giving a Web2 user experience for the masses. And this is probably where we can circle back to the other brother that isn't here. But one of the things that I was also impressed with by your product, and we're all product builders here, so we know how hard it can be to build Web3 user experiences, was the familiarity that the app had when you go in. There's a wallet there that you can have your tokens in, but it felt very Web2. I think the Pokemon Go kind of example was a very on-brand one for what you're doing because it felt so seamless in that sense. And so how have you been approaching and really straddling some of the challenges from building user experiences that are scalable to the masses? Because I think that's certainly one of the important things that you have going for you that, let's be honest, in a lot of the Web3 space just isn't quite the case. So I'd love to hear about how you've kind of thought through that a little bit more.
I appreciate the question, Tyler, but I gotta be honest. Thomas is the one obsessed with the product, and he is the one who sees the vision behind it. And I know that he gets inspired by, reading a lot of stuff out there on best products out there and what they have done to, create a captivating experience. So I think he's the best suited to answer that.
Theo, but happy if you add anything that you would like. I would just keep it rather short there, but for us, the most important thing is that you're creating something that is enjoyable, frictionless, and hyper scalable. And to be honest, if there's anybody building out there in the DePIN space and you guys are looking to do something on a mobile-based approach, a book I would definitely recommend you is called Hooked. And the narrative is about, we all know that the tricks that big tech is using for us to, stay hooked, so to say, to social media. But we feel that sometimes the only exception in which I would feel confident in terms of using, so to say, psychological approaches in order to incentivize a higher usage of an application is when there is a net positive income or net positive impact on the other side. So here we're actually creating both. But so it's super exciting for us if we can use these mechanisms to really shape the world for the better. And as Theo is saying, we're really overly, very much, so to say, concentrated on improving this product and obsessed with making sure that our users love this product and we can scale it to millions of users. So that's why, as Theo was saying, we are very focused on listening to our community, and we're creating focus groups. We are testing all our continuous updates with internal groups, and always getting that valuable feedback that Web3 enables you compared to other.
And I would just say, for anybody that is a builder in the space and you want to look at a app example that does have very low levels of friction to it, this is a good one just for a case study in that sense. Slightly unrelated to product specific things, we got connected by our mutual friend Max over at Peak. I'm just curious if you could talk really briefly on what is the relationship between what you're doing at Silencio and Peak. How does that fit into your business? And I'm just curious if you could touch on that briefly here for us.
Definitely. I think that's an excellent segue based on your previous question, given that we are doing everything here at the Web 2.5 approach, we like to say. So that means we're not on chain yet. We don't have a token. Everything that happens now inside the app is experience points. And so essentially that's going to be reflected down the line once, we go on chain. That value that everyone delivered is going to be proportionally paid out in like a token airdrop. But more on the Peak side, I think first of all, Peak is an excellent layer one on a technical level, trying to help us wherever we need at all times. And so there's a couple of reasons why we chose to work with them, but essentially I think they approached us back a couple of months ago when we were evaluating different blockchains. There are one solutions out there where to build. We had experience with other layer ones like Algorand in the past. We were looking at Ethereum, Polygon, obviously Solana, etc. But I would say these guys, their vision in giving that value back to the people, and having kind of the IoT space merge with AI and crypto, I think it's awesome. And so I think we share that vision, and so that captivated us. On a technical level, Thomas can dig a little bit into that, but on a personal level as well, these guys are based in Germany, so are we. We have pretty much a straightforward communication channel to them. They're giving us attention we need to, scale. And I think that together we still have a long trajectory to walk.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And yeah, I mean, just to add there on the technical level, we honestly didn't have any type of constraints. We even found it amazing that we could actually solve one of the classical DePIN problems, which was related to unique machine IDs. So what we're going to be doing is really making sure that every machine has a unique ID within our chain, and you as a user will be able to have a wallet attached to different machine IDs. So this could be your smartwatch, this could be your smartphone, and
Interesting.
really push the boundaries in terms of our data collection capabilities. So before, I also mentioned that we are quite aware in terms of a project of what our CO2 footprint is, because it is a global project. So we need to be very aware of how we want to create these data collection capabilities. So they're also truly fully aligned on that. They're one of the greenest chains as well out there. And as Theo was saying before, not only are they very professional, but on a human level, we are completely aligned as well. And I think this is what really made us take that leap of faith, because they're a young chain, we understand, but there's definitely let's say, multi-chain potential future for us down the line. But we definitely want to start this journey with them and see where the DePIN narrative goes.
I love it. The synergies are aligned, and it's great to hear that there are sort of mutual values that are a part of your partnership network, which is so great to hear. How can users get involved with Silencio? What are the ways that they can either get access to the app, they can become part of the ecosystem and the network of contributors, being part of focus groups? What does it look like for users getting involved?
I think it depends really much on the user himself or herself. So to start off, downloading the app, from either the Google Play Store or iOS Store with the promo code you're going to give them.
I'm going to do it. You better believe it.
You should, because that's also one of the small gamification features we have. every user you invite to the network, right, you also benefit on the value they generate. So there's that incentive. But beyond downloading it, test it out, go into places, check in into places, really just, try to bring it to all the field out there. And you can join our Discord server, follow us obviously on social media, etc. But I think if you really want to get involved, we have a lot of contributors in Discord giving us amazing value and a lot of feedback. If you're one that wants to join, just feel free to reach out. We try to be as responsible and responsive to everyone.
Yeah,
that's great.
I would like also to share, given that you will probably be airing this before December 1st, I would like to invite also all you viewers, if you guys want to partake in something that we have not disclosed yet. So you're actually getting the sneak preview.
I love the alpha. I love it. Let's go.
Basically, we're going to be doing a challenge for all of December, which is going to entail, giving a reward for the 10 users that have created the most value for the month of December. So everybody has the same chances, no matter how long they've been part of Silencio. Of course, depending on how long you've been part of it, you're going to be ranked differently in our league system for the beta airdrop, but this is another story. I just wanted to share this small gold nugget that we're going to be providing more information soon, but it's going to be very exciting, and the rewards are going to be quite interesting as well. So we look forward also to welcoming a lot of people to our community in the near future. With our app update next week, we feel very confident that it really is enhancing the gamification capabilities. And also another sneak peek, we are going to be also not only implementing the passive measurement that so many people are already asking for. There's going to be a streak mechanism that is going to increase your rewards for the periods of days that you're actually staying loyal to the app and coming back every day. And at the same time, you're going to be able to interact with the community on a deeper level. So we're very happy to see how people interact with that. There's going to be quests coming soon that are going to reward you for doing different activities, all the way from checking into venues to walking around your neighborhood and creating value for the network. So Tyler, also we are very thankful for the chat today, and we are looking forward to see how things evolve.
Yeah, well, I just really appreciate all the time that you've taken with us and our viewers to share about what you're building. It is a very interesting and unique problem that you're solving, and you're doing it in a really innovative and quite unique way that is clearly resonating with people, especially just given how many users are on the platform and all the data that you've collected and generated in such a short amount of time. So I wanted to throw it back and say thank you for coming on. We'll be sure to absolutely link everything in terms of the app store, your guys' handles, Twitter, X now, I guess, et cetera, et cetera. But are there any final last words that you wanted to share before we wrap it up?
Just for you, keep on interviewing other DePIN projects out there. I think it's a super exciting space. It's growing rapidly, and awesome to see where this narrative of DePIN is taking us, and to also see businesses manage, create a sustainable business model behind this, because I think it's super promising. We do have a lot of challenges yet ahead, but I think it's very positive what's happening.
Exactly. I think there's so much opportunity out there. So we really invite also your viewers that want to get involved in the space, check out all the different projects. They don't really step on each other, these projects, so they can easily coexist in everybody's world. And I think that's really super nice to see. And at the same time, really invite everybody to build something. If you see there is still a niche, a network that is not being addressed, because collectively and is how we're going to be able to make DePIN the worldwide narrative that it inevitably has to become. So the sooner we get there, the better it's going to be for all.
I think that's a perfect way to end it. I think that's a great way to explain what we're doing, and we're all here rallying behind the narrative. So, well, Theo, Thomas, I wanted to say thank you again. This has been a very informative, enlightening conversation for myself. As I mentioned before we even had our podcast, I did not know about a lot of the problems that existed with noise in general, and so it's been incredibly fascinating to hear about how you're using DePIN to solve it. We will be sure to link everything down below. Again, that link to the App Store, social handles, website, etc. And we want to say thank you. Get involved. Go follow these guys. Be sure to download the app. I'm going to plug my code probably here at this point so that everybody can get access. And we will see you on the next one. Theo and Thomas, thank you so much.
Tyler, we're going to give you one last gold nugget. Yeah,
let's go.
For everybody that is going to be using your code. So until the 1st of January, we're going to give them an extra 100 noise coins where they join. So we're going to be actually doing that airdrop in the first week of January. So you can communicate that with your users as well.
That's amazing. We love it. Amazing. Thank you. We appreciate that so much, guys. That's going to be awesome. Well, you'll certainly want to sign up now because it just got that much better.
Amazing, guys. Yeah, really. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Of course. Thank you.